Updated. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to be the maid of honor at my best friend's wedding because she's pregnant and marrying my ex? Of course, story is a lot more complicated than title. Original post. So 2 major parts of my life converged recently, and I'm just devastated and question pretty much all my actions, hence why I'm posting here, because I may be acting awful to 2 people I love dearly. So part 1 is Tammy. My best friend since elementary school. She is literally my sister. We have done pretty much everything together. Same college, same dorm, roommates, confidants, sloppy drunk mates. You name it. I love her so much. Part 2 is Gregory, my college boyfriend. I love him as well, but we just could never make things work. Had one of those hot mess relationships, which are a combination of torture and bliss. We have dated off and on since freshman orientation. All of us are 27 now, but usually end up in flames. I always loved him so much that I hoped we'd mature and be able to make things work. He moved to a different city after college, but we'd stay in touch, send flirty texts, and even went on vacation twice. We got along great as long as we both had our own places to retreat to, if that makes sense. All along, we both had dating lives, and to be fair, I never told him about my long-term idea that we'd be together. A year ago, Tammy moved to a city about 30 minutes away from Gregory. She was having a really hard time meeting people, so I told her, since she knew Gregory so well, she should call him and see if he can introduce her to his group of friends. She did, and I knew she was much happier. About 3 months after that, the flirty texts from Gregory just stopped out of the blue, which isn't that big of a deal because it's happened before, but looking back, I should have known what was coming. Tammy just came home for the weekend and said she was making a special trip just to see me. Of course, I was super excited to see her. She came over and she just seemed a little off. First, she told me she was pregnant. After we got past the shock and established she was happy and keeping the baby, I was elated to be an aunt. Then she said there's more and this is really hard. I about died when she said the baby is Gregory's. She apologized and said she was so sorry they had just hit it off and they didn't mean to do anything to hurt me, and they even tried breaking up for my sake, but they just realized there was too much of an attraction and they started dating. She hadn't planned on getting pregnant, but now that she is, they are getting married. She said she hoped this didn't hurt me, and she always dreamed about me being her maid of honor, and there's no one else she's ever asked. I tried to keep my cool, but I just lost it. I wasn't mad at her, just really, really sad. I told her that I loved her, but I just couldn't be around her right now, and no way I could even go to their wedding, let alone be in the wedding party. She said she was sorry about 1,000,000 times as she was leaving, and she texted me quite a bit wanting to see me before she left town on Sunday. I just couldn't do it. I literally cried all weekend. Here's the thing. If I were never in the picture, they make a perfect couple. Perfect. Tammy's brand of fiery is a much better match to Gregory's calm nature than mine. They are both gorgeous and smart and great with kids. If 2 people should be hooking up to be great partners and parents, it's those 2. I just can't help being hurt. Am I the asshole for not wanting to be her maid of honor? Edit. This blew up like crazy. I had no idea, thank you. I think pretty much everyone so far thinks at least my initial reaction is okay. The thing that people seem most confused by is the timeline, and honestly, I was wrong in my Tam and I only talked for maybe 10 minutes on Friday evening, so there is a lot I don't know, but I went through my texts and such, and this is the best I can put together. June 2017, Gregory took me to Hawaii. That is the last time I saw him. We texted maybe 2-3 times a week. May 2018, Tammy gets her job and moves to new city. We text or call easily, a combined 100 times a day or more. Late July 2018. Tammy confesses that she's really lonely. All her coworkers are older and she's seriously thinking about quitting and moving back. I tell her she should call Greg. She doesn't have his number, so I give it to her. I still keep getting flirty, but nothing overt from Gregory in this time period. August 2018. I start a project at my job, promotions company, setting up for a December event for a AB list celebrity. It's literally make or break for my company and my career. I work 16-hour day minimums and basically go off the grid. Greg still texts occasionally and I keep missing Tammy's calls. September 2018. Last text from Greg. Like I said, no big deal. I didn't even see this until today, but Tammy texted me, "Please call me as soon as possible. We really need to talk about something." This adds a whole new element to the story, but I can't believe I forgot or missed the text. I respond to another text of Air's later in the day, kinda bitchy, "Hey, you know I'm busy. Give me some time to breathe." Another piece I forgot until I dug in my texts. She may have taken this as a message I wasn't ready. I assume this is when they first hooked up. September to December. We still miss each other and honestly don't think I talked to her, and looking back she texted about 5 times to every one of my responses, and if I read it right, she initiated all conversations. I wasn't a very good friend. My event goes off pretty well and then I immediately leave for an overseas vacation with my family. January. We still didn't talk at all, but I didn't think much of it. Friday the 1st. She drops the news in person she's been pregnant for about 2 weeks and getting married in April. So that's the timeline. Not sure if it clears anything, but it looks like Tam may have reached out to me at least once. Now for the update. I got so many nice comments on my original and my first ever gold, I figured I owed everyone an update and sort of what I'm thinking now after getting a chance to talk it out with Tammy and see Gregory for the first time in almost 2 years. I posted the original on Tuesday morning. I pretty much couldn't focus on anything else, so I took the rest of the week off to have a self-pity party. That wasn't working, so I just decided, screw it. I'm going to drive 7 hours to see Tammy and just tell her how I was feeling. I texted her on the way and she said she was happy I was coming. I really wanted to address all the very good questions you good people had brought up in my post from Tuesday. So I got there and we basically hugged hello, and I have to admit I was very happy to see her. What was so fucking weird is it was obvious Gregory was living in her place now. I don't even know why I hadn't even thought about this, but he's a pretty messy dude. So when I saw cereal bowls on the coffee table and socks on the floor, shit that used to drive me up the wall, I was like, wow, this is real. Thank God Greg wasn't there, and Tammy apologized that she just didn't feel good enough to clean up before she heard I was coming. So our conversation basically centered around what happened and why she never told me. At first she was kind of talking around it to spare my feelings, and I got sort of frustrated with her and told her to please just tell me what happened. So it turns out they went out as a group right after I gave her Greg's number, and they just had an immediate attraction. They said that for the first few times they hung out, it was all just reminiscing about our college days, and never mentioned the attraction. I guess about 2 weeks of hanging out, they kissed for the first time, and she was so pissed at herself, she blocked his number and didn't see him for almost a month. I guess she got lonely again. They ran into each other and admitted they had real feelings. She said she texted me and told me she wanted to talk about it right after they agreed to start dating. I found this out on my own on Tuesday after going through my texts, but since I was so busy, I wasn't very nice to her. But she knew I was busy and really wavered on interrupting the most important time in my professional career, first telling me some very hard-to-swallow news. She said rightly or wrongly she decided to tell me in person when she saw me again. Fast forward a little bit, I guess. They so serious they talked about eloping after only 2 months and were pretty much living together. She said they had a drunken New Year's Eve party and just weren't careful, and that's when she assumed she got pregnant. She said she knew then that it was an in-person conversation she had to have with me. Her first free weekend was last weekend. So I basically responded to all of this by saying I just didn't know how to feel. That in my brain I knew Gregory and I were not compatible, but my heart always hoped we'd grow up and be able to make it work. And she was my best friend. And I basically hooked them up. And I just don't know how to deal with all this. I know it's over. But even seeing his shit on her floor was sort of painful. Honestly, that would have been a massive fight between Greg and I. Like I said, Tammy is much more chill. I told her that I would always love her and always be her friend, but an April wedding is probably just too soon to be involved in a wedding party. She said she totally understood. We talked about the elephant in the room for maybe 20 more minutes, but honestly, we were just talking in circles, saying the same thing over and over again. So we just sort of moved on to how she was feeling, how work was going, me apparently wearing some sort of man repellent because I can't even hook up on Tinder and all the other things. friends usually talk about. Tammy is in full-blown morning sickness, so she must have barfed 15 times in the first 2 hours of me being there. At first, I just let her do her thing, but then I felt really bad because we've been friends for over 20 years and I'm not even helping her. So I went in and helped put her hair in a ponytail and rubbed her back. And that's when it hit me that I would absolutely regret it and never be able to forgive myself if I weren't there for her wedding, pregnancy, and having a baby, no matter who she was marrying. We went to lunch, and at that point I told her I was sorry. I was being selfish, and I would be her maid of honor. She said no way I was being selfish, but would never have another maid of honor besides me. It's not going to be the easiest thing in my life, but I can't not do it. So we went back to her apartment, and Gregory was home. Suddenly I felt like such an idiot because I couldn't possibly be in their wedding, let alone ever be around the two of them together. That was the most awkward hello I've ever had in my life, and thank God he'd cleaned up, because I was just amped up with nerves to scream at him like I would have in the past. We sort of awkwardly sat on their couch, not saying much, but after a few minutes, I just started telling myself again to grow up. Don't let my own feelings get in the way of two people who may really belong together. Seeing them in person together is even more saccharine sweet than I thought possible. They are perfect for each other. Gregory is supportive. I don't know how many times I had to claim best friend privilege when she got sick over loving fiancé privilege. And sweet, and she's far more tolerant of him than I could ever possibly be. It was still hard for the rest of the evening, but I think it will get better with time. I decided again I would be an heir wedding. We had dinner, and I got a hotel because even though I'm trying, I'm not ready to sleep in the same house as them. Tammy has to work today, so I'm just hanging out before I see her for lunch, then I'm going to drive back home. We have a long, long way to go, but I'm so glad I came to see her. Because at the very least we saw each other and talked it out, and I'm very happy that I'm going to be involved in these major life events with her. Thank you so much for all the input the other day, and thank you for reading all this. Edit 1. Guys, holy shit! This is blown up again. I literally just got home and have over 200 inbox notifications. Thank you so much for the gold and silver. I can't wait to read all this. Thank you so much. Edit 2. I totally passed out last night, so I didn't get to participate like I would have. I have to jump in and defend Tammy. Maybe no one will see this, because it's probably time this fades. Maybe no one will believe me, but for all the critics of her, there's a good explanation that can most likely be explained away by me being a bad writer or not wanting this to be a narcissistic novel. For example, I saw someone saying, Tammy should have called after the first kiss. I've known her for so long to know that she knows I can be very irrational and angry. I alluded to it in the other post, but I had to do a year of anger management therapy because I can be like dynamite when I get pissed. I'm way better now, but she probably has legit PTSD from some of my freakouts. And she figured it was a one-time thing, so why poke the bear, if that makes sense? Secondly, I can't stress enough how busy I was last fall. Not an exaggeration to say I was working 16+ hours a day with maybe a day off every 20-30 days. I was planning a huge event that centered around a true narcissist, and he would have me on my phone texting questions and answers all day long. The last thing I wanted to do in my time off was get on my phone. I can count from that period, and I'd say it averages 10-to-1 of Tammy texting me. I assume calls were worse. But one stretch, I think I counted, she texted me 40 times before I texted her back. It's bad timing more than anything because any one of those may have been when she wanted to tell me. And I definitely appreciate her thoughtfulness of not wanting to spring it on me while I was losing my mind from lack of sleep at work. I agree with her that this was an in-person conversation anyways. I know Tammy is just an internet sprite to all but one of you, and that is so F2 Redditors Uncup thing. I wish I had the energy to do another post. But she is a real person who has been my ride or die since we were 10 and 11. We've fought, screwed each other over so many times, and we've always forgiven each other because having her in my life is way more important than pining over a guy I spent most of my time frustrated with anyways. Don't get me wrong, I'm still pining and I cried last night over this. But like so many people said, maybe Tam Tam's best gift to me as a friend was forcing me to get on with shit. Maybe 10 years and 40-plus breakups and just as many broken dishes and slammed doors. She was the sign the universe sent to make me move on from a guy who wasn't right for me. Story 2. My husband keeps getting more attractive and I don't like it. Me, 32F, and my husband, 32M, have been together for 8 years, married for 5. I am not ashamed to say I was the pretty one in our relationship when we were dating. Before we got married, he was around 280 pounds and 5'11", didn't know how to choose clothes for himself, he hates shopping, and had a bald head. I fell in love with who he was as a person, even though I never cared for his looks. I was secretly assured that he wouldn't cheat on me. I was cheated on every single one of my relationships until he came along. Into second year of our marriage, his sister had to lose ton of weight due to heart issues, and he started going to gym with her 5 times a week to support her. I was very supportive of him to start exercising and thought it was very sweet of him to support his sister like that. With 2.5 years of hard work, they both lost ton of weight. He specifically lost around 100 pounds, and turns out he has very blessed genes. I am talking about full-on abs and everything. Never knew man can grow jaw lines by losing weight. Even his pee seemed bigger. I was very proud of him and was pleasantly surprised by this. Then, soon after, he got a promotion at work. He became head of his department, and his former boss advised that he should look more presentable as a representation of their department. My husband took his words to heart and turned to me for help. We went on shopping spree and started to let his hair grow out. Well, again, turns out he has a beautiful hair. By this time, my husband is very attractive man. Then a month, we went to company's anniversary party with his co-workers. I noticed that women at that party was just swooning over my husband, and even worse, he just doesn't realize it. I learned from his co-worker that most single women, even some of the married ones, are actively throwing themselves at him at his workplace. There was one younger girl who gave him a kiss on the cheek while we were sitting together. I talked to him about it, and he said, "Well, she is French." I thought French people are like that. I guess I'll try to keep my distance from her. Honestly, it was dumb response, but it's just so like him. I don't like how much attention he is getting. I feel like as soon as we get into rough patch, if we get into it, there is ton of women waiting to prey on him. I am scared that some of those women will affect him as he is pretty naive as a person. Note that he was everything I could ask for in marriage and has been great if not perfect husband for me over the years. I feel like such a POS for wishing he stayed physically the same.